Dr. Mark Changizi here with your Science Moment. Today I was going to talk about manual transmission in cars. I've always been a lover of manual transmission, and a lot of people misunderstand the motivation for why you would want manual transmission, and it's harder and harder to find in the United States any cars that are manual transmission. Now, often when you'll say people, I really like manual transmission, they'll say, oh, well, you realize that now automatics, they shift so fast and so efficiently that you can accelerate from 0 to 60 faster in an automatic than you can in a manual transmission. And that's completely missing the point for why people like manual transmission. And I find that a lot of folks that like manual transmission are not actually particularly good at being explicit in understanding why they even like it. And I think that it's much deeper than they even realize. And so it's not about the acceleration. It's about the fact that you have, instead of one dimension of capability, you have an extra dimension. You have the full two dimensions that you want in controlling the emotions, in some sense, of the car. And so typically you just have the accelerator, and you can, the changes in gears are being done by the vehicle itself rather than you. So you can't control the gear ratio. So, but when you're in a manual transmission, you can control the gear ratio, and you've got two dimensions. So, for example, right now I'm in 6th gear. I'm on the highway. I'm going, 70 miles per hour. So, if it's very casual out here, there's not much traffic, I might be in 6th gear, and it's fine. And let's say I'm going 70 miles per hour, that's fine. But I can choose to also go 70 miles per hour and instead be in 5th gear. Now, you can't hear the difference too much, but I can even go down to 4th gear. Now, the engine is revving hot. It's much hotter, higher revolutions per minute. And the advantage of that is that if there was a lot of cars on the road still going 70, well, now, if I accelerate, I get tremendous acceleration, or if I just pull back on the acceleration, I just sort of untouch it, then I get a lot of engine braking. So with very slight touches on the accelerator, I have both tremendous ability to accelerate or decelerate with one touch without having to move my foot over to the brake. If I go back up to 6th gear, well, I can accelerate, but nothing really happens. And I can decelerate, and it's just rolling. It's not getting an engine braking. So you don't have the ability to get the kind of aggressive, offensive, or defensive kind of behavior that you might want when you're in high gear versus being in lower gear. Having the ability to independently control the RPMs gives you an extra dimension that you need to be able to control, have a safer, more controlled behavior in a variety of different kind of stressful or unstressful settings. Now, these kinds of let me go this way. This difference, these two dimensions are not just arbitrary two dimensions that manual transmissions have. These are the emotions that actually animals have. Animals have, of course, wide varieties of emotions, but two key dimensions in understanding emotions as well as emotional expressions, which is the topic of Dr. Jim Barber in my upcoming book, Express the Human, is that these two dimensions allow you to understand a lot of the important emotions. And one is determined by aggressive behavior, aggressive emotions, and conciliatory, its opposite, conciliatory emotions. And in a vehicle, that might, in some circumstances, translate to accelerating versus decelerating. But the other would be being being just serious versus being casual. When you're more serious, you're more activated, you're more ready to act, to behave, to do something. And when you're more ready to act, just your emotion lets you, you're on the cusp of wanting to act. Having the ability to do both of these dimensions allows my car to actively be in one of those two states. So right now, let's get back up to speed here. When I don't have the ability to shift, well, I just have to you just slam on the accelerator in an automatic, and it'll downshift on its own eventually, on its own accord. But you can't decide when you want to be in higher RPMs or lower RPMs, or when you can't decide when you want your car to be serious or to be casual. But I can on a manual transmission, and I have the same 2 degrees of freedom. So now I've decided it's a serious situation. I want to be in high RPMs, which means that as soon as I let off the gas, it slows down. Or I can, just like in any person, I say it's a very casual, it's just over a beer, it's a conversation. I don't have to be readied for anything, and I can just feel casual. Those are the two dimensions that we all have, that all the animals have internally, as well as their ability to express them. If you want the full experience, the full emotional experience of you and your car, your vehicle, or your motorcycle, which is luckily they're all manual transmission, nearly all of them, then you want those full two dimensions. That allows you to, it allows you to really embed your emotions into the car's emotions and have them interact with one another. It makes the driving experience both more emotional and more functional because you have both these dimensions at your disposal. Because at the end of the day, the reason we have emotions is because they're functional. And that was your science moment.